Hello, I'm Rebecca Gordon-Nesbitt, Research Fellow at King's College London and erstwhile researcher to the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Arts, Health and Wellbeing. Now, all-party parliamentary groups exist in the UK Parliament for lots of different subjects. There are almost 700 of them on a range of topics. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on Arts, Health and Wellbeing was set up in 2014 by Lord Howarth of Newport, and its purpose is to raise awareness of the impact of the benefits of arts engagement to our health and well-being, and also to try and advance access to those benefits so that people around the country can enjoy the arts in a way that benefits them. And what we did was, in 2015, the group initiated an inquiry in Parliament into these benefits. We had 16 roundtable discussions, and around 300 participants came together to discuss the impact of the arts. Among them were artists and arts professionals, museum people, health professionals, social care providers, and people who have genuinely benefited from engaging in the arts and understand the impact that it has on their health and well-being. So this took place over 2 years, and my job as the researcher for the project was to compile lots of evidence about the impact of the benefits. And what we did was, we started by looking at recent health policy in the UK, and this is underpinned by the idea of the social determinants of health. Now, the social determinants of health are defined by the World Health Organization as the conditions in which we're born, grow, live, work, and age, and the systems and forces around us that impact on our health. So it could be things like education and employment and housing. These all have an impact on our health. And we thought we would respond to this idea by looking at how the arts have an impact on all of those areas of our lives as well. So if we take the example of education, a lot of children aren't ready to go to school at the age that the government determines they should be at school. And the arts can help ready them to go to school and begin the educational experience. When children are at school, we find that engaging with the arts, like learning a musical instrument, can advance their learning ability and open their minds to new experiences, as well as improving their social and their emotional skills and protecting their mental health and well-being. And we see this evidence across the life course, which is how we organised the final report. In July 2017, the APPG published a report, Creative Health, The Arts for Health and Wellbeing, which brought together all the evidence we'd compiled over a 2-year period. We tried to include the voices of people who took part in the inquiry as much as possible, and we compile evidence in chapters across the life course, showing how the arts can make a difference to how you're born and you grow and live, work, age, and even die. We also produced a short version of the report, which was illustrated by the British artist David Shrigley. And in both versions of the report, there are 3 key messages which I'll read to you now. These are that the arts can help keep us well, aid our recovery, and support longer lives better lived. The arts can help meet major challenges facing health and social care, including ageing, long-term conditions, loneliness, and mental health. And the arts can help save money in the health service and in social care. So this really speaks to people that are planning our health and social care services in a language that we hope they can understand. So the reason we embarked on the inquiry in Parliament and drafted the report is that we felt the evidence surrounding the benefits of the arts to our health and well-being hadn't been brought together in one place before. And that's really what the report sought to do, to compile all the evidence across the life course of how engaging with the arts, whether that's visiting a museum or painting at the weekend, really helps our health and well-being. And the evidence that we compiled has started to be persuasive to policymakers. So to take one example, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, who's the former Culture Minister and therefore understands both the arts and health and social care, has agreed with us that the arts are essential to our health and well-being. In the UK at the moment, the National Health Service is embarking on a major project to recognise social prescribing and to roll it out across the country. Now, what social prescribing is the idea that not everybody visits their doctor for health reasons. In fact, 1 in 5 visits to our family doctor are made for reasons that aren't health related, that might have to do with worries about housing or about economy, employment, that kind of thing, or it could be depression or bereavement or social isolation that causes people to visit their doctor. And the National Health Service and the Health Department have recognised this, and rather than prescribing people pills and sending them away, they're looking for solutions within our community. And the Health Secretary agrees with us that the arts play a massive part in community health. And so arts on prescription is hopefully going to become much more readily available to people as a result of some of the evidence that we've presented. There are about 2,500 museums in the UK, which is about one museum in every town. And they're free to enter. The government has made it very clear that it supports the principle that everybody should have access to our culture. We argue in the report that museums and galleries are a vital part of our public life and community, and we'd like to see much more participatory arts activity going on in museums. So already we see that people use museums in a variety of ways to enhance their health and well-being. This may be youth groups. Almost every museum will have some kind of educational group, which is generally targeted at younger people. But we also see people in their working lives relying on museums to restore and maintain their mental health. And increasingly, we see older people coming into the museum. Their museums may be dementia-friendly. There's an age-friendly museums network. And more work is being done not only to invite people into the museum, but also to have cultural champions in the community. In Manchester, for example, they've pioneered a scheme whereby cultural champions, who tend to be older people themselves, try to encourage other older people to come and join the activities in the museum. There's also community outreach programs, which might mean that older people get involved in local radio broadcasts or housing projects. Another way in which museums activate their collections is by inviting people to handle the objects that they contain. So, for example, objects might be taken out of the museum into hospitals and people will engage with them there, which enhances their sense of well-being and engagement and activity. Some museums have digitized their collections so that on a handheld tablet you can have access to some of the great works of art that they hold in their collections. Social isolation is a massive problem in the UK. Around 3.6 million people have been identified as lonely, and in the older population, around 1.4 million people have been identified as chronically lonely. Now, loneliness can have a very detrimental effect on our health. It can raise our blood pressure, it can make us depressed, and it can generally impact on our physical health as well. So the estimates are that being lonely is equivalent to smoking about 15 cigarettes a day. Now, museums play a vital role in making people feel more socially connected. By getting involved in activities at the museum, people find that their loneliness is massively depleted and their well-being goes through the roof. So they can be joyous places. They can be places where people come together and meet and make new friends. In the future, we'd like to see museums much more a part of our community so that people have access to them wherever they are. And in order to do this, we need to overcome some kind of barriers. So the barriers that stop people from accessing museums, especially as they get older, are things like transport or psychological barriers, that people might feel the museum isn't for them because they don't come from a particular educational background where they have visited museums as children. We also need to look at the timing of activities, particularly for older people who might not want to do things as the day goes on. So there are a number of challenges to face in terms of practical steps that can be taken to make sure that the museum's more accessible. But in short, everybody should be engaging with their local museum and enjoying what it has to offer. And ideally, people will be encouraged to express their own creativity. Going to a museum needn't just be about looking at the static objects in a collection or an exhibition that's been beautifully curated. It can also be about expressing yourself. And many museums, as they do with learning experiences, have started to make participatory art experiences available to people so that we can go there and enjoy our own creativity rather than looking at the masterworks of somebody else. So that's a real growth area for the future. enabling people to be creative. A museum director in Kent said that museums tap into our curiosity, which is a perfect way of describing what they do. And in the future, we hope that this will happen more and more, and that everybody feels that their curiosity can be harnessed by museums. So if people are interested in this way of working, I would recommend that they start by having a look at the Creative Health Report. The foreword by Lord Howarth of Newport has been translated into Japanese, so it gives an idea of the topics that we cover in the report. And if you're involved in providing activities in museums or galleries, perhaps you want to get involved in engaging your audiences more in this kind of work, confident in the knowledge that you're enhancing their health and well-being. So I'd like to conclude by wishing you all a fantastically interesting conference for ICOM 2019. I wish I could be there with you, but I'm sending you all my best for your creative health.